All right, before we start reading, remember you should have your handout from class out for whatever your lit circle role is, whether you're a discussion director. If you're a discussion director while you're reading, you're writing down those questions that begin with how or why. If you're an illustrator, you will be drawing one drawing for each scene. If you're a vocabulary enricher, you have 3 vocabulary words to write down, look up the definition, and create a drawing. And if you're a summarizer, you have 2 summaries, but have that out now so you can complete it after you read. All right, chapter 12. Killer Kane had a kid who got no brain. I feel real bad for Freak because he hates it when people try to rub his head for luck, but I don't say a word. I just run us home, thumping the short way back around the pond, and my big feet never even trip me up because I'm on automatic. I'm this running machine. Whoa, Freak says when we get to his house. Now that's an adventure, huh? An evil dude like Iggy Lee? We are lucky to get out of there alive. Freak goes, no way, that was all talk. Yeah, right. The real deal is I was scared the whole time I was there, and so was Freak, even if he won't admit it now. That stuff about my father was true, Freak says, studying his fingernails and acting real cool again. The fair Gwen won't talk about it. All she says is, he made his decision and I made mine. But I know he ran away because of me. And you know what? What? Good riddance to bad rubbish. For some reason, that really gets me laughing. Something about the way he says it, or maybe it's all that nervous stuff we left over from the New Testaments. Whatever, I'm rolling on the ground like a moron. And Freak is strutting around saying stuff like, Loretta, my queen, wouldst thou accept my hand in marriage? And, Sir Iggy, wouldst thou do us all a big favor and fall upon thy sword? And I'm breathing so hard I can hardly breathe. Everything is pretty much okay after that. One thing we don't do though, we don't talk about my father, good old Killer Kane, which is fine by me. School. For the last week or so, it's like getting jabbed with a little needle every time I hear that word. Graham is trying to pretend how excited she is I'm finally in the 8th grade. Like this is a really big deal. Which is a joke because the only reason I got passed from the 7th grade is because they figured this way the butthead can be, quote, someone else's problem. Thank God. We've had quite enough of Maxwell Kane, unquote. Graham takes me out to the mall to get new clothes, which is about as much fun as going to the dentist. Except maybe worse because at least at the dentist, you're mostly in a chair with the door closed. Where at the mall with Graham, it's like, hello world, here I am, take a good look. The girl at the shoe store has got this little smirk and she goes, 13 Triple E, do they make shoes that big? And Graham goes, I'm quite sure they do, dear. You go ask the manager. And then she looks at me and she goes, Maxwell, this is not major surgery, so will you please, as a special favor to me, wipe that wounded look off your face and try and be polite? Yeah, right. The brand manager, when he comes out with these Brand X running shoes, he wants to help me take off my old shoes. Like he's pretty sure I can't do it by myself. But I give him this look and he backs off and lets me do it myself. I wish you'd tie those laces, dear, Graham says while I'm squishing around in the new shoes. That's the fashion, the manager says with his laugh. Actually, they're designed that way. You don't need to lace up. Just to prove what a jerk he is, I tie up the laces and that makes Graham happy. Which is funny sometimes, how little it takes to make her happy. Except when you can't really figure what until you've already done it. Does that make any sense? Finally, we escape from the mall, and I've got enough clothes to last me, as Grim points out, a week or so. You could just keep letting down his cuffs, Grim says. Except they don't have cuffs now. What am I thinking? I think he looks quite handsome, Graham says. Maxwell, please turn around and keep your shirt tail tucked in. Leave him alone, Grim says. He's not a fashion model. I just can't get over it, Graham says. Our little Maxwell is growing up. Growing is right, Grim says. The boy is certainly growing. The deal is, Freak and I get to be in the same classes. He made the fair Gwen go in and see all these people at the school because I wasn't supposed to be in the smart classes. No way. And finally, they all agreed it'd be good for Freak, having someone to help him get around. Graham acts kind of worried about it, and she doesn't want to sign the papers, like she thinks the LD class has done me a lot of good or something. And being the genius class is just going to make me slower, dumber than ever. But one night, I come up the cellar stairs real quiet, and Grim is saying, "Let's give it a try. Nothing else has worked. Maybe what he needs is a friend. That's the one thing he's never had with all those special teachers." And the next morning, she signs the papers. And when we get to school the first day, Freak helps me find my name on the list, and it's true. We're in all the same classes. At first, all the other kids are so into looking cool and acting cool and showing off their new outfits, they hardly notice us in the hall. Freak riding high on my shoulders, or the deal where his desk is always right next to mine. That wears off, though. And by the time we leave maths, which is just passing out the textbooks and a bunch of members chalked on the blackboard, you can hear the whispers in the hall. Like, "Hey, who's the midget?" And "There goes Mad Max." And "Excuse me while I barf." And "Look what escaped from the freak show." And "Oh my God, that's disgusting." Maxwell Kane? This is from Mrs. Donnelly, the English teacher. She's new to the school, and when I nod and raise my pencil, she goes, "Maxwell, will you please stand up and tell us something about your summer?" Which, if she wasn't new to the school, she'd know better, because getting up in the class and saying stuff is not something I do. "Maxwell," she goes, "is there a problem?" By now there's a lot of noise, and kids are shouting stuff like, "Forget it, Mrs. Donnelly, his brain is in his tail. Ask him to count, he can paw the ground. Maxi pad, ask him quick about his dad. Killer Kane, had a kid who got no brain." Mrs. Donnelly has this look like she stepped into something she can't get off her shoe. The shouting and singing goes on, and pretty soon some of the kids are throwing stuff at us, pencils and erasers and wadded up paper, and it's like Mrs. Donnelly has no idea what to do about it. The room is out of control. Then Freak climbs up on his desk, which makes him seem about as big as a normal person standing up, and he starts shouting at the top of his lungs. "Order!" he shouts. "Order in the court! Let justice be heard!" For some reason, maybe because he looks so fierce with his jaw sticking out and his little fists all balled up and the way he's stamping his crooked little feet, everybody shuts up and there's this spooky silence. Finally, Mrs. Donnelly says, "You must be Kevin. Is that right?" Freak has this look. He's still acting really fierce, and he goes, "Sometimes I am." "Sometimes? What does that mean?" "It means sometimes I'm more than Kevin." "Oh," says Mrs. Donnelly, and you can tell she has no idea what he's talking about, but she thinks it's important to let him talk. "So, Kevin," she says, "can you give us all an example?" Next thing I know, Freak has his hands on my head, and he's getting himself on my shoulders, and he's tugging at me in a way that I know means stand up, and so I do it. I stand right up in class, and I can see Miss Donnelly's eyes getting bigger and bigger. I'm standing right there with Freak, high above me, and it feels right. It makes me feel strong and important. "How's this for an example?" Freak is saying. "Sometimes we're 9 feet tall and strong enough to walk through walls. Sometimes we fight gangs. Sometimes we find treasure. Sometimes we slay dragons and drink from the Holy Grail." Mrs. Donnelly is backing up to her desk and she says, "Oh my, that's very interesting, I'm sure, but could you both just sit down?" Freak is riding me like he's the jockey and I'm the horse. He's steering me around the classroom showing off. He's raising his fist and punching it in the air and going, "Freak the mighty, freak the mighty." And pretty soon he's got all the other kids chanting, "Freak the mighty, freak the mighty, freak the mighty," even though they don't even know what he's talking about or what it means. I'm standing up straight, as tall as I can, and I'm marching exactly like he wants me to. Right and left, backwards and forwards, and it's like music or something. Like I don't even have to think about it. I just do it. And all those kids chanting our name, and Mrs. Donnelly has no idea what's going on. She's definitely flipped out, and more or less hiding behind her desk. The whole class is raising their fists in the air and chanting, "Freak the mighty, freak the mighty, freak the mighty." I can't explain why, but it was really pretty cool. Anyhow, that's how Freak and I get sent to the principal's office the first time together. Mrs. Addison, she's the principal. She takes one look at us waiting outside her office and she goes, "What have we here?" "I'm afraid there's been a slight misunderstanding," Freak says, "if you'd be so good as to allow me to explain." Mrs. Addison is this slightly serious acting black woman with tight gray hair and a bun, and these suits that make her look like she works in a bank or something. She has this funny little smile like she's sucking on a lemon, and it quickly turns sweet. And then she goes, "By all means, let's hear what you have to say. Convince me." I can't really remember what Freak said, except that he used so many big words, she had to keep looking stuff up in his dictionary, which she seemed to get a real kick out of. But the important thing is, whatever Freak told her, she fell for it.